This is the January 27, 2026 meeting of the Chatham County Savannah Metropolitan Planning Commission.
The Chatham County Savannah Metropolitan Planning Commission consists of Mr. Travis Coles, Chairman, Mr. Tom Wildwoody, Vice Chairman, Ms. Lorraine Bowles, Secretary, Mr. Jeff Nortrica, Treasurer. Board members include Mr. Dwayne Stevens, Mr. Joseph Irvine, Ms. Amanda Wilson, Ms. Karen Jarrett, Ms. Corinne Ross, Ms. Tracy Amick, Mr. Michael Kegler, Mr. Jay Melder, Mr. Joseph Welch, and Mr. Stephen Plunk. The MPC Executive Director is Melanie Wilson.
Thank you all for your patience. The January 27, 2026 regular meeting of the Chatham County Savannah Metropolitan Planning Commission will now come to order. We'll pause for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For staff, petitioners, and members of the public who are participating, our procedures will be as follows. The agenda is broken down into several parts. First, notices, proclamations, and acknowledgments. Next, the consent agenda, which consists of items for which the applicant is in agreement with the staff recommendation and there are no known objections. This will be followed by regular business, old business, and adjournment. For each agenda item on regular business, the staff will make a presentation. The staff presentation will be then followed by a presentation from the petitioner, should they elect to do so. The petitioner will be allotted a time frame of no more than 20 minutes. The board may then ask questions of the petitioner or staff for clarification. Afterwards, the floor will be open for public comment. If you wish to comment on the item that the board is considering at the time, members of the public that are in person must fill out a blue speaker card and give it to the staff. If you're participating virtually, use the raise your hand feature on your screen. Do not use the feature until the item you wish to comment on is being considered. At the appropriate time, you will be recognized and staff will unmute your microphone. At the end of your allotted time, as determined by the chair, your microphone will be muted and the chair will recognize the next speaker. The total public comment time will be less than or equivalent to the petitioner's presentation time. Therefore, for those participating online, it is important that you use the raise your hand feature during the hearing on that item if you want to speak on a petition. Once the floor is closed for public comment on a petition, no additional public speakers will be allowed. If you are not certain you wish to speak, still use the raise your hand feature, or if in person, fill out the blue speaker card. You will have the option to decline when your name is called. After public comment, the petitioner will have the opportunity for rebuttal and then address any additional needed questions by the board. Finally, the board will take action. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Bowles, make a motion to approve agenda.
Plunk, second.
Properly moved and seconded. We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. There are no notices, proclamations, or acknowledgments. There are no items requested to be removed from the final agenda. There are no items requested to be withdrawn. On the consent agenda, we have the approval of the January 6, 2026 meeting minutes.
Plunk, motion to approve.
Bowles, second.
We'll do a voice vote again. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next, we have regular business. It's GDP with variance 21 and 19 Alfred Street, reduced front and rear yard setbacks in RSF 6 zoning district. And that's 25-006080-ZA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is Edward Morrow, Director of Development Services here at the MPC. Our first petition is a request for this board's review of a general development plan with variances for an existing non-conforming place of worship at 19 and 21 Alfred Street. You can see an aerial image of the subject parcels and the church with an accessory structure that is presently situated on the parcels. Before we get to the petition, you can see that the future land use is indicated for residential suburban single family, and also it is zoned RSF 6. There is some light industrial zoning to the north, but this area is pretty consistently RSF 6. With specific regard to the request today, the petitioner is requesting front and rear setback relief. And so on the front, In association with the expansion of the front facade, the petitioner is requesting a reduction of the front setback by 7 feet 10 inches. And they're requesting a reduction of the rear setback from 50 feet to 12 feet. So you can see the reference standards there in section 5.7.6 outlined in red for non-residential purposes that are in this zoning district. I'll call your attention to section 8.3, however, which is the supplemental use standards for places of worship. You can see that that 50-foot setback requirement originates from this section where places of worship are required to be set back from any residentially zoned property. You can see here a screenshot of a survey for how the property is presently situated with the existing church that was built, established in 1855, built in 1955, according to the tax assessor. There's a metal building in association. The petitioner has provided us this exhibit to show their proposed expansion, which is 1,900 square feet approximately. And they are also proposing to add a formal parking lot. In looking right now, you can see that the use presently relies upon this grass surface right here, which is permitted for this use within the residential zoning district. But in looking at their permitted site plan, you can see that there are 2 new curb cuts that are proposed in association with this expansion and the addition of 17 parking spaces here on the lot. Also, I'll call your attention to the planted buffer that is proposed to be placed here. This is the rear encroachment. Again, this board previously saw this particular parcel to allow this encroachment into the rear. No additional structures proposed. These would essentially just be for this parking area and the expansion of the existing facility. In looking at the findings, again, I will point out that this orientation does include 2 new curb cuts that have not been reviewed by the city's traffic engineering department. And so traffic engineering would have to review and give its approval for this configuration. The site plan also shows a planted parking buffer along the eastern side of the property. And this would have to be at least 5 feet wide in order to meet the current development standards. Finally, the petitioner has conveyed a proposed capacity not to exceed 102 feet within the sanctuary. The zoning ordinance does rely upon measurement of the number of seats within the sanctuary as the basis for the parking required off-street. One off-street parking space per every 6 seats in the sanctuary. And so right now, the petitioner has not expressed any interest in exceeding that 102 seats in the sanctuary. In looking at some of the criteria, I will point to general consistency. The church is a longstanding presence within this community, and so the expansion does not significantly alter the established pattern of development. Again, it's an expansion of its existing front and rear facades going over to the east, and so the existing structure is already demonstrating the encroachments that we are seeing to be expanded. With regard to special conditions do exist in that this particular structure is already placed in a certain manner dating back to 1955, and so the structure is related to expansion of these existing facades. Otherwise, it would create a design that is not nearly as aesthetic. We did receive some correspondence from the Woodville Neighborhood Association President, Ms. Pamela Anderson, and so I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge her questions. This is a use that is legal nonconforming. There would be the right to continue the use even if variance relief were not granted for the proposed expansions. The off-street parking formalized in the site plan that we saw is not necessarily a requirement. Meeting the off-street parking requirement would still be required. However, to formalize the parking with the curb cuts that were shown, should they not be approved by traffic engineering, there is the possibility that there could be a redesign that would not necessarily require relief from this board. The proposal, again, is not intended to exceed 102 seats within that sanctuary. If it would exceed that, then at that time, the city's Planning and Urban Design Department would send that back to the Metropolitan Planning Commission for the purpose of evaluating the appropriateness of relief from the off-street parking requirement. Staff has recommended mitigating conditions in order to make sure that this is not necessarily a nuisance to neighbors. We're recommending a 6-foot rear privacy fence along the rear property line, that no parking be permitted in the rear of the property so that there's no additional impact there. And also the establishment of a planted buffer is going to be required naturally by the ordinance. This proposed addition is 1,901 square feet. It would bring the total lot coverage for this use to 5,665 square feet, or 21.2% lot coverage, where the maximum permitted is 40% in this zoning district. So they are not nearly approaching the maximum that would be permitted with this expansion. The circulation routes that you've seen with the added parking have not yet been reviewed by traffic engineering, and that is not within the scope or purview of this board to vary those standards. And so traffic engineering's outcome could have a significant impact on whether or not this use proceeds in the manner that you're seeing today. Finally, monuments are not within the scope of the Planning Commission, and so any commemorative action would be considered by a different board. And so with that, MPC staff does recommend approval of this, these two variances that are requested with two conditions. The first being the continuous privacy fence that would be placed at least 6 feet in height along that rear property line, and the second one being that no parking shall be permitted in the rear of the structure so that there are no additional impacts. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Is the petitioner here?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, then, are there any questions for staff?
Mr. Morrow, would you pull up the plan for how the expansion is happening?
Yes. So here is the side expansion and the parking area proposed.
So from the variance standpoint, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it clearly. The relaxation and/or variance on the front is based off of something that's already existing, and they are doing an addition that basically stays within a similar setback?
That is correct.
Same for the rear?
For the rear, yes, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I'm clear and understand, because I just want to, understanding that it is only 21% lot coverage, I just wanted to make sure that it was not an attempt to add on knowingly having, knowingly getting into the setbacks outside of what the existing footprint kind of sits in.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
If the petitioner's not present, do we want to continue this?
There's no requirement for them to be present, right?
No, there's no requirement for them to be present, but in the past, you have to continue until the petitioner's present, but that's clearly up to the public.
But we do have
I'm so sorry.
a speaker, right?
We do have the petitioner here?
Mr. Irvin was correct. He is here.
Okay. If you would like to step to the microphone and please state your name for the record, and you have 20 minutes to present.
Well, good morning, everyone. Do you have some questions for me?
Just state your name for the record, please.
Daniel Atkins. And just for point of record, you've mentioned that it was established since 1955. That's as far as the records go back. The church has actually been in that spot since 1883, 84, around that time frame. So it's actually been there for 143 years. The church was there long before any of those residents were there in that same spot, just for point of record.
So is there any more presentation that you would like to do before we open it for questions for you?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions for the petitioner? Now that we know he's here. Okay.
Has the building been there since 1884?
Yes, ma'am. Just small renovations, but yes, the building has been there since
Okay,
that long. Yes,
thank you.
ma'am.
Mr. Trika, did you have a question? Did you have a question? No. You got your mic on.
Oh, sorry.
What's the need for the decrease in the rear setback?
That is a very good question. As I noted, we're not moving the back of the building. We're just moving, as stated, the east side. So nothing is changing in the rear or the front. When we were applying for a permit, that was what we were told was needed, was to apply for this variance.
But they are adding on to the existing footprint in the rear and the front.
No, we're not adding to the rear or the front. We're just adding to the
side.
east.
And
Yes.
basically, what I was just kind of getting clarified with Mr. Morrow based off of where the building currently sits, it would be in violation of what the setbacks are. Therefore, the addition being immediately adjacent to it, they're just keeping the same back line and front line of the building and going east, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Therefore, the addition automatically defaults.
So we're making them legal?
That's what it
Kind
sounds
of.
like.
Really?
That's what it
Yeah,
sounds like.
kind of. I mean, the only way we could really make them fully legal if it was a demolition and reconstruction, and then they would be within the confines of the variant, the setbacks. But as it is now, there's no way they could do it unless they shrunk it.
Questions?
Do we have any input from neighborhood? Anybody in opposed of it?
We do have speaker cards.
Okay.
All right, if there are no more questions for the petitioner, we'll move into the, Ms. Wilson?
And then what the space will be used for moving east would be parking. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. The space that we are adding to the facility is going to be just for the comforts of worship. And what we have on the east also we'll be using for parking, and what you're using for parking now as well.
So in the picture that's up on our screen right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Where the 4 parking spaces are currently, you'll be extending the building that way, is that correct?
Right, but not where those 4 parking spaces are. If you look at the screen, it's butting up, those
This is where they're extending.
4 parking spaces are butting up to the expansion.
Okay, may I add something? My name is Dontre Wallace.
Just say it into the microphone, please, for the record.
Yeah, my name is Dontre Wallace. I'm the one that pretty much formulate the drawings. Just like we spoke about, is that the addition footprint is not going to see the front of the building or the rear of the building. So everything that we adding on is just going to be for a place of worship. And then I did a preliminary review with Kenneth Cullins and John in reference to setting up the parking and the curb cuts. So they already seeing this plan that we presented to them, and they said it would be okay, but we just pending final review. So as you can see that we got the plants along the side for a buffer, and then we will also need to have a buffer on the rear line because the adjacent properties are residential.
Thank you. Mr. Morrow, can you just pull up a Google Maps overview so that we can see what's actually built? Because I think there's some confusion as to, so that's the actual as-built.
Yes.
So they're not expanding any further back than what the house is now.
Right.
Is the variance to bring it in line? Is it already built?
That's what we're believing, and there's already a fence, a 6-foot privacy fence already in the rear as well.
Right.
Gotcha. Mr. Murray, do you have something to add?
So I would just say the rear, they're required to be 50 feet off of this rear line.
So it's already in violation of the setback. So
Exactly.
this is to bring it into conformance.
So anything that you add here is already going to encroach.
Gotcha.
Also on the front, they're supposed to have 30 feet. And so when they add, it's going to sit within that. It would actually be kind of this area, if you can see my mouse.
exactly.
The only area that you would be allowed to add without issue is about right here where my mouse is.
And that's where
That's what we're at.
And that's what they're adding. All
Right, exactly.
right, any other questions from staff or the petitioner? All right, we'll move into the public comment section. Thank you, sir. Dontre Wallace?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're, okay. Did you want to speak?
I think I spoke enough.
Okay. Wise words, right? All right, Daniel Atkins?
That's what that's me.
All right, there we go. All right, those two done. Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Good afternoon, Pamela Anderson, Woodville Community Action Organization President. I sent in a letter and it specifies my concerns. Woodville is a community that's been founded since 1870. So First African Baptist Church in Woodville was established in 1879. That's the beginning of the history of the church. I have no opposition to the addition to the church, long as the guidelines are followed within the MPC findings and there's no interruption with businesses or the residents. So I have no opposition, I approve.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Are there any questions from the board for Ms. Anderson? All right. Next, we have Velda Hendricks. Is she online? Ms. Hendricks, if you're online, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon. So I recently purchased a property that's adjacent to that empty lot. So I do have a fence line. My main concern is where is the stormwater runoff is gonna go, because presently I do have some issues with water running off of that property because they have a little higher incline than my property, so I'm really concerned because I'm already dealing with flooding on my property.
Thank you, Ms. Hendricks. We'll try.
Will the parking lots have lights?
Are there any other questions?
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hendricks. We'll try to get answers for you online.
Okay.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Hendricks? Would the petitioner like to address the questions about drainage and lighting for Ms. Hendricks?
Is she referring to this empty lot right here?
I believe her property is behind the church, and it may be the empty lot to the right of that house.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's gonna be a problem, because I'm pretty sure that gutters will solve that if it look like we're gonna have any problems. As far as lighting, I believe there is like right on the corner of this property, there's a light pole, 2 light poles.
Are you guys planning on adding any additional lights to the parking lot?
If needed, or if required, yes. But you only gonna have service pretty much place of assembly probably 3 times at the most per week.
I think it sounds to me that her concern is light basically pouring into their backyard, so.
No, we won't have any lights pointing on the back of the church. However, the church does have cameras and spotlights, so they're motion detected. So if there's movement, the lights will come on. But
Preferably the spotlight's not aimed at her backyard.
No, sir.
Her address is 20 King Street. I just saw it in her letter, so she's on that street behind the church.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No.
I like lights, so, because when I'm walking in my house and on my property, I want to see what's going on.
Well, Ms. Hendricks does not. She does not want your light in her backyard, so. All right, any other questions from the board? There's no more public comment at this time. We don't have any other cards. Any discussion? I think my discussion with this, because we've seen another church that came before us 2 months ago in the same neighborhood, and I know there's a proliferation of churches in the area, and there's concerns about parking. I think that, we discussed a little bit in the pre-meeting the differences between this petition and the other petition, and essentially it is that they're not necessarily adding any more congregants to this. They're adding building space, also adding parking that wasn't in existence before. So I think there are some differences between the 2 petitions. Is there any other discussion about that anyone would like to add to that? No? Okay, just me. All right, well then we'll open the floor for a vote. Sorry, a motion, not for vote.
Jeff Notriga, I recommend we go with staff recommendations for approval.
Mr. Kegler, you seconding? Or Mr. Irvin?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. Ms. Anick?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Kegler?
Yes.
Mr. Melder?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Intrica?
Yes.
Mr. Plunk?
Yes.
Ms. Ross? Oh, she's not here, sorry. Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Wywitty?
Yes.
And I too vote yes, the motion carries. We got everyone here but 2. That's amazing. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is GDP with variance 1623 Staley Avenue and Gunny Street and 6 and 7 Gunny Street. Reduced front and rear setbacks of 4 lots in RSF 6 zoning district 25-005776-ZA.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Planning Commission, this is Edward Morrow again. This is a request for variance relief for 4 parcels, 1623 Staley Avenue, 0, 6, and 7 Gunny Street. I'd like to address one issue that I misspoke regarding in the pre-meeting, and that's in relation to the variance that was denied at 7 Gunny Street. So it's actually this second parcel. I'll take the opportunity to show you this. This particular parcel was denied for a variance within the last calendar year, and so it is ineligible for the requested relief. Nonetheless, I'll proceed and we'll amend our recommendation accordingly. So this is a request for variances in association with a general development plan. This petitioner did bring one of these parcels to the Zoning Board of Appeals last year for the purpose of requesting front and rear setback relief for lots that are oriented toward John Eady Court over here to the west. And that relief was requested for the purpose of expanding the building envelope so that a single-family dwelling could be placed on it. MPC staff did request that this particular petition be sent to the Planning Commission so that these 4 parcels could be addressed simultaneously for a more equitable outcome. So looking at the future land use map, you can see it's presently indicated for residential single family. These are the 4 subject parcels. Also, it is within the RSF 6 zoning district. Note the light industrial restricted use to the north directly across the street. In looking at the zoning history for this, as I just mentioned, one of these parcels, this is indicated here as 0 Gunny Street. It is actually 7 Gunny Street that was denied by the ZBA in petition 25-002696-ZBA. And so for a period of 12 months, setback relief cannot be granted for this particular parcel. That would not have bearing on the other 3 parcels that are the subject of this request. Some notes here briefly about the previous subdivision. The subject parcels were part of a master plan that was ultimately effectuated sometime around 2009. At the time that this organization, the MPC, actually looked at that, the subject parcels were situated as they currently exist today, at the time that the initial development reviews were taking place for the John Eady Court subdivision that adjoins, in which these particular parcels are requested to become a part of. And so these are very technically conforming parcels within the RSF 6 zoning district, even by today's standards. They have a minimum width of 60 feet and an area of 6,000 square feet. However, you'll notice that they are oriented in a manner not ordinarily anticipated by the zoning ordinance. Ideally, these would be deeper than they are wide, and these happen to be particularly wide. And so this request is to reorient these parcels so that this developer will be able to place a home of comparable size to those, but still within the expectations of the RSF 6 zoning district on these parcels. And so the current building envelope, as you can see here, require a 20-foot front setback, a 20-foot rear setback. Do note the right-of-way that is on either side, John Eady Court, which they're proposed to front, and Gunny Avenue, which is to the east to the rear. The requested relief would give the petitioner 10-foot front and rear setbacks and 5-foot side setbacks. Staff does, again, have an alternative recommendation. If you have been down Staley Avenue, you will probably note this, if you're headed into town, you'll note this subdivision on your right-hand side, and we are talking about these particular parcels right here. The petitioner would like to place homes that are fronting here on this particular street with the remainder of the homes that are already there. If you were to ride by that area back in 2007, you would see a home on 1623 Staley Avenue that was there but has since been demolished. In looking at the aerial imagery from 2008 provided by Sages, you can see that there was also a home at 6 Gunny Street. So 2 of these homes did previously have single-family dwellings on them. And the one numbered address, 7 Gunny Avenue, we suspect that there was likely a home there previously as well, being that it has an address unlike 0 Gunny. So potentially 3 out of 4 of these lots previously contained single-family homes. These are the standards at issue in the RSF 6 district. You can see that the lot does technically meet these dimensions, 60 feet of width and 6,000 square feet of area. And that with street access would be a 20-foot 20-foot front yard setback, a rear setback of 20 feet, and interior sides of 5. And on a street yard like Staley, you would expect 10. So a little bit of differentiation there based on the side orientation. In looking at the criteria for this, in looking at general consistency in particular, staff assessed that this is not necessarily inconsistent with the intent of the ordinance, in that, again, this is a conforming parcel, but it is oriented in a manner that is not ordinarily anticipated by the ordinance. And so the purpose here is for achieving a building envelope that would allow a comparable dwelling to be placed on these parcels. Most importantly, and I feel like I rarely get to say this, special privilege would not be granted in the approval of this variance, in that this is for a petition that would not permit something that is out of scope, context, or expectation for the nature of development that we would typically see on these parcels. And so with that, staff does recommend denial as requested, but we have an alternative recommendation, and this is the alteration or correction that I would like to make. It is actually parcel 15B is indicated that is ineligible at present. Nonetheless, I will present the recommendation on the associated exhibits, as this will likely come back in the future for that variance relief once that period of 12 months has lapsed. And so staff is recommending that the front setback be reduced from 20 feet to 10 feet for all of these parcels for habitable areas. Maintain the 20-foot front setback for attached garages. Reduce the rear setback from 20 feet to 10 feet for habitable areas. Lot area 15A, sorry. This is the one that adjoins Staley Staley Avenue 1623. It should have a side setback of 15 feet. So in essence, you're going to see a 15-foot for the leading parcel adjoining Staley and 10-foot interior side setbacks for the remainder of the parcels for habitable spaces, with the exception of Lot 15D, which should be dedicated. This is a parcel that in previous testimony given by the neighborhood, we understood that the developer may have made representations that this was going to be community area. And so given the fact that those representations must have been made, and this might particularly encroach on the neighbor's enjoyment of his property, staff recommends that this be dedicated as a community space for the residents of the John Eady Court HOA. We believe that that HOA is in existence, as they submitted a letter during the ZBA petition in 2025. A couple of general conditions. There should be a continuous rear privacy buffer created and maintained along the rear property line of all 4 parcels. And this should consist of a 6-foot privacy fence and a minimum 3-foot wide hedgerow. This is in the interest of future occupants of the parcels that front on Gunny Avenue, in order to create some privacy and a sense of separation for those residents who would likely be part of a different homeowners association or independent property owners. The associated variance petition number should also accompany all of the submittals. These submittals were prepared for ease of assessment in the future when building permits come in. So you can see that all of our recommendations have been annotated here. This is the parcel that is ineligible, outlined in blue. Nonetheless, staff's recommendation remains the same. This is where you would see the rear buffer that would give some privacy and separation to future owners of these properties. This is the parcel, Lot 15D, that should be dedicated to the HOA for community use. And this board currently may grant variance relief for Lot 15C, Lot 15A. This is where we would see the 15-foot relief with 10 feet in between each of these. And this parcel could come back after the 12-month period has lapsed. Finally, staff has provided a concept for the buffer that should be established around the community area here on Lot 15D in the interest of preserving the privacy of the adjoining property owner. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Is the petitioner here? Please step forward and state your name for the record, and you have 20 minutes. You don't have to take all of it, though, if you don't want to.
Hello, William Cunningham, the Coleman Company. I prepared a statement, if I could please have your attention for a few minutes. Good afternoon. My name is William Cunningham with Coleman Company, representing Mr. Juan Eady with JD Construction. I'm also joined today by Mr. Josh Walker with Ziegler and Walker PC, who will provide legal expertise that is prevalent to this application and will be touched on later in this presentation. We are here today to request a reduction of 10 feet from the front setback line, a reduction of 10 feet from the rear setback line, and a 20-foot garage setback to accommodate parking for each parcel presented today. We agreed to stipulations 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7 are recommended by the MPC, but respectfully decline stipulation 5 regarding the dedication of Lot 15D as community area green space. I will come back to stipulation 5 later in this presentation. The subject parcels meet the minimum RSF6 lot size of 6,000 square feet, but are configured sideways abutting John Eady Court, configuring a very shallow and wide lot. Mr. Eady possesses the right to construct single-family detached dwellings on each of these lots, but each home would only be 20 feet deep, staying within the RSF6 front and rear setbacks. By reducing the front and rear setbacks by 10 feet, Mr. Eady could construct a house that is 40 feet deep. The intention is to build a home more suitable for living that also reflects the character of the Allenville Estates neighborhood. Now, there's context required to understand what led us to present before you today. Mr. Eady and I originally brought the same variance request before the Savannah Zoning Board of Appeals on June 26, 2025 for the individual lot 6 Gunny Street. In our pre-application meeting, we were requested by the MPC staff to submit a letter of support from the Property Owners Association with our application because these lots are planned to be incorporated into the Allenville Estates Property Owners Association. Mr. Eady is the declarant of the Property Owners Association. When a jurisdiction requests a letter of support, our job is to provide the jurisdiction with a document from who is in control of the POA, which in this case is Mr. Eady. This is very customary practice. We were heard at ZBA, but tabled to host a neighborhood meeting, which is not required for variances per Savannah's ordinance. We returned to the ZBA hearing and were ultimately denied our request. The basis of our denial, though, was that Mr. Eady had in a way falsified the POA letter of support and should not be rewarded for such behavior. The choice of words that were used towards Mr. Eady were disappointing and not fair to his character or professionalism. Mr. Walker will speak more concisely to this. He's his attorney, but I want to be clear, very clear, that Mr. Eady is in no way at fault for this letter of support. He did not claim to meet with the residents of Allenville Estates and then proceed to the ZBA hearing. The letter states that the Property Owners Association, which is entirely controlled by Mr. Eady, is in support of their request and provides a brief description of the variance, nothing more. It is merely his assignment as declarant to handle such documents. There has been no malicious intent, and we have done everything possible to abide by the rules and recommendations of the MPC and ZBA since our first submission for the June 26th ZBA hearing. And I want to reiterate that variances do not require neighborhood meetings. I understand the residents have had conversations with Mr. Eady about the future of their community and that some do not feel resolved in them. I cannot speak to those conversations. Those are between him and the Allenville Estates residents. I can only speak to what Mr. Eady is required to do regarding land use and zoning. Regarding the proposed stipulation 5, if Lot D were to be preserved as community area green space, a total of 17% of Allenville Estates would be reserved common area. I would challenge you to find a residential subdivision in the area, much less a 20-lot subdivision, that reserves almost a fifth of the subdivision as community area and green space. You will not find any. From what I could find, Allenville Estates is the only detached single-family subdivision that holds an existing community area within a 10 square mile circle with its gazebo overlooking a well-landscaped pond. Thank you to the new sages that make it very easy to measure that. The Autumn Place subdivision POA just down the road on Staley Avenue holds 25 lots with no common open space. A neighboring subdivision 300 feet away off of Liberty Heights Drive holds 36 lots with no common open space. The Mills Run subdivision POA on the other side of Durand holds 115 lots with no common open space. The subdivision next to it off Girard Avenue holds over 150 lots and has no common open space. It is unreasonable to ask Mr. Eady to sacrifice a substantial portion of his 21-lot development as community area green space when surrounding neighborhoods are not held to the same standard. Parks and recreation can be found at Robbie Robinson Park, just a half mile from Allenville Estates. This is a 5-acre, ADA accessible park that has a playground, basketball court, picnic area, and abundance of open space. It is well parked, easily accessible, and serves the purpose of community area green space that nearby residents can enjoy. Sorry, I'm almost finished. Regarding vehicular and pedestrian traffic, adding 4 lots at the front of the subdivision will not drastically increase traffic volume on John Eady Court. The proposed front setback lines of these parcels are approximately 15 feet from the back of sidewalk and 25 feet from the edge of pavement of John Eady Court. This gives enough space to ensure that there is not any visual impairment to drivers coming in or out of the subdivision. The garage setback will be approximately 25 feet from the sidewalk and 35 feet from the edge of pavement to prevent cars from impeding on the pedestrian ways. JD Construction is not a national home builder that can fluctuate the number of lots they build in their site plan. This is a local business, and there are only so many lots that can be built in the local area. Mr. Eady intends to build on these lots. The vote today will determine if the homes resemble the footprint shown in our application, or if they will be confined to the 20 feet deep, 90 foot wide setback parameters that he's currently entitled to. The intent of this variance is to construct homes in character with the Allenville Estates. Denial of this request will result in disjointed homes from the community that could drive neighboring property values down. The variance request is not injurious to the neighborhood and no different than any basic variance request you may have seen before for irregular shaped existing lots of record. We ask that our application be judged and decided upon based on the criteria for approval in section 3.21.10 of the City of Savannah's Development Ordinance. I have outlined how we meet the criteria in our application. If you will please take the time to read it if you have not already. The MPC staff recommended approval at both June 26th and July 24th ZBA hearings, and they recommend approval of the setback reductions today because this is a logical request for relief from a hardship. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Is there anyone else that's speaking on behalf of the petitioner?
Yes, sir. Mr. Josh
If
Walker.
they'll go ahead and come up and present, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh Walker. I'm a real estate attorney here in town with the firm Ziegler and Walker. I think it's probably been at least 10 years since I've been before this commission, but thank you for having me today. They've asked me to come here to talk about the covenants and the declaration for Allenville Estates. I think that's the only reason I'm here, and I'm happy to talk about that. I've been practicing 25 years in Savannah. I've been representing or creating covenants, dealing with associations, and doing basically real estate land use law since that time. I did prepare these covenants for Mr. Eady. And they originally, when they were recorded in 2020, they govern all the existing lots and what I would call phase 1. These 4 lots we always anticipated would be like a phase 2. We have the ability to file a supplement declaration of covenants that will add these to the Allenville Estates, and we intend to do that, in the near future. I'll comment also on a letter. I was not at the last meet or the ZBA meeting. I did see a letter that Mr. Eady wrote on behalf of the association, and I don't think he asked my advice back when he wrote that, but I've looked at the letter and I would have told him, I would have drafted the exact same letter and told him to sign it because he is the president of the association. And he has what is called a declarant vote, a weighted vote in the association of 3 votes per lot. And that's the way we set these up. Developers come in and invest a lot of money in developing these properties and building these houses. And we make sure that they maintain a certain amount of control until they get to a point where they can turn over the association. And that's the plan here, and that's what we've always planned. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Is there anyone else that's speaking on behalf of the petitioner, or just the 2 of you? All right. Are there any questions from the board for petitioners?
Yeah, the first question was, can he repeat which of the 8 conditions you were in favor and which ones you were not?
The only
staff.
Yes, sir. The only stipulation we are not abiding to is the having Lot 15D be reserved as common area.
Okay. Number 6.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Did I understand you to say that it was suggested by the ZBA that you have a meeting with the neighbors?
Yes, ma'am.
And you refused?
No, we did.
Okay. Did you have the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did the neighbors? Yes.
The neighbors were not happy with our variance request. They haven't been since the start of this.
Were the neighbors told that they were going to get an open space, common area?
Like I said, anything that's been said between Juan and his residents, that's between them.
Okay.
There's nothing in writing that I'm aware of that has been stipulated that they would have that agreement.
I actually have a
Stevens,
question.
well, Mr. Melder, then Mr. Stevens, sorry.
Go ahead.
I yield to Mr. Stevens.
All right, Mr. Stevens first, then Ms. Melder.
I
Mr.
actually
Melder.
have a question for Mr. Walker, just because I want to better understand this HOA scenario. So he owns 3 votes per lot,
Yes.
and that is per lot of the existing community, or that he still owns?
That's the planned community, so, and it's until he, I think until he sells 90% of all the lots, and that's when his declarant control period will end, and after that, he'll only have 1 vote per lot, just like the residents do.
So as of right now, what you said is how many lots? 20 total?
Currently, there are 17 in
17,
non-real
excuse me,
estates.
okay.
And I'll say, I looked on Sage's just last night, and just, I can't, I'm not sure how accurate it is, because Sage just runs behind, but I know he owned at least 4 or 5 or 6 of the lots that I clicked on, and the 4 lots that we're talking about today. So he easily continues to have the controlling vote, and he will until he sells the houses, really, or until he sells, maybe until the last 2.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Melder.
Thank you. My question was to staff, to Mr. Morrow. If you could talk more about staff's recommendations sent on the conveyance of the open space or the dedication of the open space, since this is the one recommendation that the petitioner is not agreeing with, if you could give some more clarity as to why staff felt this was the appropriate position.
Absolutely. So at the initial meeting, there were even more residents of the community that showed up at the very first meeting to kind of explain representations that had been made to them, I guess, around the time that they purchased their homes. And so in hearing those that initial testimony from the neighborhood, and in going back and doing deeper review on this petition, staff felt that it was most appropriate that, again, this be referred to this board so that the ZBA was not bound to make individual decisions. The petitioner applied for one. Rather than having to have that board make a singular decision about each one, we referred this to this board for the purpose of allowing it to make a comprehensive, coordinated decision about how this area should be developed and integrated into that existing community. So it was on that basis that we said, obviously, some representations were made. And my question, because this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, I don't know that we've been sworn in. I'll just sit that there on the record. I just want to make sure that representations that we're making, this is public record, we can go back and we can listen to the hearing, we can hear what the community members said. And so it was in the interest of just having a concerted development come out of this petition rather than singular applications that might be difficult to have a more nuanced outcome.
I understand. If I could ask a few follow-up questions. I understand that these things get very complex and complicated over time. But as this is a planning commission meeting, is there any specific planning policy that staff looked at in terms of the dedication for green space? I know the petitioner did note a pond, which I'm guessing is also a retention pond, and then a gazebo. I did see that in the map. But is there in our evaluation of the community, did we see a lack of green space in terms of best practice planning?
No, I would not say that that was kind of the essence or the origin of where that came from.
Okay.
Here in the zoning history, this is the original subdivision that was considered by the MPC dating back, I believe, to 2002 through 2007 when, or 2008 is the reference there. So there was a development review related to the existing subdivision in the 17 lots that are there. These lots at the time, they existed, they were not part of the original subdivision. So to state that there would not necessarily be an expectation of a particular proportion of open space or green space, I'm not quite sure that's accurate, simply because, again, we do have a tree ordinance that does require that there is a minimum amount that would not come into play here because these are existing non-conforming lots of record.
I got it. Is there, and Mr. Moore, you do an amazing job getting all of these facts and kind of weaving all of these threads together to make the best possible recommendations, and you should be, and all of MPC staff, thanked for it. The last thing I'll ask on this one issue, is there any detriment planning-wise to if the board decided that the dedication of the lot was not necessary or not called for, and therefore opened that lot up for development? Is there any detriment to that specific lot or any specific lot addition to the ones that we're discussing today being developed as single-family homes versus a passive park area?
Is there a detriment? Truthfully, as the petitioner commented, these are existing non-conforming lots of record. They have the right to go and pull building permits to build conforming single-family dwellings. I think there is a detriment. As you will know, I'm an ardent advocate for the profession, and so there is a unique blending of public perspective, ordinance, all things that we bring together. This position represents a blending of perspectives. I do think it would be a detriment to this neighborhood that has taken the time to show up, to express their voice in this process, and to air their grievances. And so, yes, I think there would be some detriment if this board were to look at this in the same singular fashion and say, this person has a right to do this. It would be somewhat of a disrespect to the process, if you will.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrow.
Ms. Emmett?
So I was looking at the material provided, and I didn't see the size of the already developed built-out lots. Is it correct to assume that these particular 3 or 4, whichever we're talking about, are smaller, and that's what the request for the reduction in setbacks is?
The building envelope would result in a significantly smaller building footprint. And so it's reasonable that the petitioner would come forward and ask for that. I can actually find out right now what the existing ones are.
So that sounds then like he's wanting to build a bigger house.
Then would be permitted by right.
That's correct.
Where's the improvement? Assessment, land class, building value. Oh, 7 Gunny doesn't have anything, sorry. Click on something adjacent. Click this guy next door. I'm not seeing the improvement information. Okay, it doesn't appear, at least for this parcel, that they have the size of the structure just yet. Let's try this one. Okay. Residential improvement. Okay, 2021, 1936. So it's reasonable to assume that based on that reduced building envelope, you would get something smaller. I will say, for some reason, we don't often see 3-story structures as frequently as the zoning ordinance would allow. 3 stories up to 36 feet is the norm in the RSF 6 district, so you could go up.
Any other questions? I have a question. I may have misheard this, but it sounded like you said that dedicating one of these lots would take 17% of the neighborhood away?
In terms of total common open space encompassed by the Allenville Estates subdivision, if these lots were included and that lot was dedicated, then yes, 17% of the total subdivision would be.
Is that including the existing 17 lots that have houses on them?
Yes, sir.
I'm just, from the aerial shot, I just don't see 17%. I mean, even with the detention pond, I don't really
So I
consider a
believe
detention pond.
the pond that has the gazebo in the pond is about 0.67, adding the 0.14 of the, 6 Gunny Street is about 0.61, and 0.61 of, I believe, is 4.28 plus 0.51, comes out to about 5 acres, get a little more, and that divided by 0.6, when I did my math, came out to about 17%.
I mean, your numbers may add up, but just visually looking at the detention pond in the bottom left here and one of those lots, it doesn't look like that would add up to close to 20% of all of these lots that are part of this neighborhood.
I guess what I would say to that is that the pond, just relating to my statements that there are areas, or the gazebo area is unique in a common open space, it's a well-landscaped pond, has a gazebo, that is an area that the community can gather right now. That is not seen anywhere else among residential subdivisions.
Understood. It still just doesn't visually appear to be 17%
So I guess
of the area.
I just statistically 17%, he could have, I guess, consumed some of that detention pond to build another lot, but.
Gotcha. Just for the sake of this hearing, it sounds misrepresenting the amount of space with all the parcels in
Did
there.
not intend to misrepresent that. It's
Gotcha.
just use my calculations.
One more question, Ms. Mills?
I'm just not understanding how the community comes to believe that there was a promise for open space, and then the developers don't have that understanding. So I don't know who made what promise, how this came to be, if anybody could answer that question.
We'll probably hear from you. I think it'd be good to go ahead and bring up our public comments, and then we can circle back around to that after we've heard kind of the two sides of that particular
I have one
discussion.
other question. So of the HOA members who voted yes, or would be, agreed to this letter that was presented, what is the percentage of HOA members who voted no?
If I may, I don't think there was a meeting concerning this letter. As the president of the association, he has the authority to write the letter under Georgia law. So I don't think there was a vote, is my answer.
Okay, was there any discussion that you understand by other HOA members?
Before the letter was written,
Yes.
I'd have to let Mr. Edie answer that. Excuse me.
I would just like to say, the letter was a recommendation, and we could have just, we knew the residents might have opinions about it, and we did not have, Mr. Wan, you want to come up and speak to this?
Have the letter?
Sorry. Don't want to misspeak.
Good evening. How's everybody?
You could, if you just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Juan Edie. I'm the general contractor.
So what was the question?
Questions?
Oh, no, I was just wondering, was there any discussion with with all the HOA members before the letter was written?
No, ma'am. But when we came to the board, they wanted me to have a HOA meeting. And I did ask for everybody, I gave everybody letters, everybody came out, we all met at the gazebo in the evening, so when everybody's home after work, like 5 o'clock-ish. The thing was, no one really wanted to talk about the setbacks of the property, of me trying to build. Everybody was asking me to give them something, like they wanted me to build them a pool, they wanted me to build them a clubhouse, they wanted me to build them a park. And so what I did was I got all the data information. I went and got the price of a pool. And of course, and I added my lot, which is 65,000, what, I got, tied up in it. So it's 4 lots. And so therefore, when I presented them, I emailed everybody, I gave them what a pool would cost. When I got the price of the pool, it was about 80,000. So 80,000 plus 65,000. No one, in other words, when I talked to the residents, their attitude was, oh, you're the contractor, you build it. And so I tried to tell them, well, who's going to be responsible for it? Because no one wants to hold responsibility. So therefore, being a contractor, I don't see how it's fair to me to, if I build a pool or a park, then I'm still in control. I got to be responsible for it. If somebody come in and get hurt, drown, or whatever, I'm responsible. That ain't fair to me. I'm just trying to build. I mean, I bought the lots so that I can build a beautiful neighborhood. So far, if you look at the pictures, I think I did very well. But for some odd reasons, people just want you to give them something.
Let's try to stick to the confines of the original question, which was, how would they get the impression that there was green space promised? Mr. Whiteway.
Sir, you're the contractor. Did you have any input in the formation of the HOA documents?
In my documents, I never promised anyone.
So there's no statement of green space or contemplation of green space in the future in the HOA documents?
No, sir. No, sir. You can ask the attorney who drafted. No, sir.
Okay.
I never promised anybody no parks, no pool, no clubhouses. I'm not going to make nobody no promise like that. When they came to purchase their lot, I did them half of them a favor because they couldn't afford it, so I had to reduce the price so they could buy into the community. So therefore, now all of a sudden I'm getting all this negative feedback because sometimes being nice, it comes back to hurt you. I'm just being honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so here it is, I'm just trying to make a living. I bought these lots to build on, and here it is, they trying to beat me up because, well, one, the neighbor that lives in I'm sorry, I don't even want to go there. He wants to buy my lot. Because I won't sell it to him, he creating all this animosity. And then I got another neighbor, he wants to wash his cars on the other side of the street every day. And even when I ask him about the chemicals they're using, because they're fish in the pond. I'm sorry, they're fish inside the pond. And these chemicals that he's constantly washing his vehicles with, it goes down into the pond where the fish at. So if you want it to come out there and fish, you might catch a fish that's contaminated because he got all these chemicals going into the water.
I think we're still getting away from the questions that are being asked.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to move into public comment unless there are any specific questions of this petitioner at this time. All right, thank you, sir. So first up, we have Toshiba Cooper.
Good afternoon. My name is Toshiba Cooper. I live at 103 John Eady Court. My husband is the one who has the detailing and he washes his cars on the street. The chemicals that he used, which is water basically and bleach, the pond is all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac. We stay second house. The water does not run this way. If it's going to run, which it doesn't run, it pretty much dries up where it is. So it doesn't run anywhere. I just want to clarify that. I am not in agreement of him, I guess, building these houses because I was one of the ones that came to the first and the second meeting. If I'm correct, the letter that was placed in reference to the community saying that the residents agreed, we did not agree, if I could state that. Also, we did have a meeting, which the MPC had him have a meeting with us, which was our only meeting that we had. Basically listening to Attorney Walker, it seems like the community doesn't have a voice because we've never had a meeting other than the meeting that you guys made him have. Which we had at afternoon, standing up. Everybody was standing up in the sun. Other than that, I've been there since October 2020. We purchased our home. We have never had an HOA meeting, never. And we were promised green space. We were promised a playground. All of us in that community, I think, except 2 houses, we have small children. The children have nowhere to play. And because we're not in agreement of whatever he wants to do, he wants to punish us and now place houses in front of, in the lots that there are no houses. And then once those houses go up, the children will have no place to play. Everyone there pays HOA fees, well, been paying them in the past, and we have absolutely nothing. But we were promised a playground and green space. He did present, emailed us not actually a quote, a handwritten quote about the pool, privacy fence, a club. I mean, the cheapest thing was a gate, and that's $46,000, which he says that this money will be divided up between each household. The highest thing was $145,000, which would be divided between each household. We would have to pay that, I guess, come together and decide how we're gonna pay it. I don't have a problem with Mr. Eady building other homes there. whatever he wants to build, you're right, he's right, those are his lots. But he promised us green space. And he doesn't live in that neighborhood. So I understand that he can be the president of the HOA, but he's never had a meeting. So how is that just? We live there. We live there, our kids live there. I mean, we keep our property, well manicured, everything else. So everybody gets along in that small, it's 11 families, 11, 12 families. Everybody gets along. Everybody watches out for everybody. Mr. Edie does not live in that neighborhood. He has not had a meeting with us to say, hey, I want to build these houses. Can we get some votes, or y'all want to vote, or whatever the case may be. But
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Your time is expiring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Charlie Bryant.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Bryant. I live at 114 John Edie Court. My wife and I been living there. March would be 4 years. Getting back to the legal document, just want to clarify this again. The last meeting 6-7 months ago we had, I noticed on the website that Mr. Edie sent in a document stating that the homeowners agree to what he was trying to do as far as building homes. That was a false document, and the last chairman recognized it, and I don't know what the laws are about sending in false documents, but I just want to clarify that we did not agree with that document, the homeowners. This builder, again, like my neighbor said, doesn't live there. He's supposed to be the HOA president. The community is his responsibility to manicure and keep clean. If any of you guys ride in that community, you'll see where it's a toxic dump site. He has about 15 loads of dirt sitting on those lots. He has debris that's been sitting there for 5 years. Savannah Code and Compliance, I have notified them. It's been 5 months. He have done nothing to that debris, the vegetation that's grown up on it. He's done nothing. The community is a sore eye. Safety. The homes that he would put in that community would increase the amount of homes on that short street. That's a short cul-de-sac. It would increase homes. That means that you got more traffic. We got families in this home, in this community. That would be an issue. Safety. Allenville was 17 home sites. If he add those 4 homes, that would be 20 feet from the road. That means that the home would only be 20 feet wide. Think about that, 20 feet wide. There's no home in that subdivision that fits that description. It's not consistent with what's in the home, what's in that development. It wouldn't even look right. And the size of the homes that I don't know what his square footage is. I think he said 1,500 square foot. That's not consistent with the square footage of the homes out there. That pond, that's not green space. That's a retention pond that's required. When we moved out there, he told my wife and I, these 4 lots are gonna be green space. That's what he told us. My home is the one lot. My home is the lot that's sitting next to the green space. If you look at that lot and you look at how it's developed and you look at the lot that my home is in, when you walk out my front door, that house will be sitting right there. I couldn't even see the road. When I back out of my driveway, I wouldn't even be able to see the road until I got to the street.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. That
That's a
is your
safety
time.
issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Bryant?
Good afternoon. My name's Gloria Bryant, and that's with my husband, and I agree with him. But when we purchased this home, we have been told it was only going to be 17 homes. He could say what he wanted to say, with 17 homes. And green space. Those 4 lots are supposed to be empty. So, once again, we not say the same thing. We never had a meeting. He do not communicate with anyone. Next to our house is a dirt mine, dirty dirt, debris. The dirt was smelling. He don't care, you know, we can't talk to him. No one not really speaking to him, so he's not doing anything. So he the president, and we just paying money every year for looking at the retention pond, and that's it. And I just want to say, you know, thank y'all. This is my 3rd time coming here. I left very early to be here, so, you know, we've been told something totally different, and I thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Ms. Glenda Jones?
Good afternoon. My name is Glenda Jones. I'm actually the president of the Liberty City Richfield Southover Community Improvement Association Incorporated, for which this neighborhood is a part of that particular association, although they do have an HOA. I came here today because I saw this property on the agenda. And this morning, I actually signed a loan agreement to purchase a home at 113 John Eady Court. And when I got here and I heard some of this stuff, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Lord, have mercy. Did I do the right thing? It's not sounding good at all. Now, I will tell you, and I'm going to dispute some of the things the young man said, because I spoke to Mr. Eady when I was touring the home that I signed the loan for this morning. He did mention to me that there was going to be a park across the street from the home I just purchased. He did. That was 2 weeks ago, okay? We also talked about the HOA, and he told me that he was over the HOA, and that at a certain point he was going to relinquish that particular duty, and because I told him what I did in the community, and I was telling him, oh, I'll keep things straight. And he's like, well, maybe you need to take over the HOA. No problem, because believe me, I do fight for my neighborhood. I do fight for it. And as I said, I just came to listen, but I'm seriously not liking what I'm hearing at all. I can't go backwards because I literally just signed the loan this morning. Whatever happens, we're going to be stuck with it, but to the residents, as well as Mr. Eady, I'm going to let them know right now, I will fight for that street. I will fight for the residents on that street, and I will make sure, no matter who has what there, I will fight to keep that street clean. But he did tell me he's going to build a park.
Can I ask a follow?
Yes.
Can you be specific about what precisely you were told about the green space in the park?
I was told that he was going to build a park across the street.
Just to clarify though, is this in the same street?
Same street.
The exact same street? Okay.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago when I toured the house. Yeah.
So we're talking about one of the lots in question today. He said he was going to build a
He
park
pointed
on.
to the empty lots across the street.
Okay.
I was standing in front of 113. I had not gone into 113. Actually, I was touring 115. And the guy who opened the door for us
pulled off, but he pulled in. And I'm like, oh, good. I met him in a bank at one point in time a couple of years ago, and I'm like, aren't you John Eady? He said, yeah. Could you open this door for me? We want to go see that house. And that's how I got in the house. He actually opened the door. And he did explain that there was going to be something across that street, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Melder.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Congratulations on your new home purchase.
I don't know about that.
The people of John Eady Court are lucky to have you.
I might be pulling all my hair out tonight when I go home.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevens.
This is a very unfortunate situation. I do want to make a very clear statement that, you know, the matter at hand for us as a body is the zoning component of this. But hearing the magnitude of the issues with the HOA and the controls of the HOA, this is not the forum, and we can't necessarily base decisions off of that. But I would imagine there are some rights that the HOA members have that are paying into the HOA, and I would also imagine there are some responsibilities of said HOA. Regarding the park, I hear you, and I think from a marketing standpoint, if that's what's being marketed, that is what should be done. It would be in everybody's best interest if that was in writing, but I'm just really struggling with this. It's very unfortunate that people are putting their hard-earned dollars into this and expecting a certain lifestyle and are being told one thing and delivering something, getting something else that's being delivered.
Mr. Stevens, I don't mean to interrupt, but can we save that for the discussion part so that we can get back on that? No, you're fine. Because I've got a lot that I would like to say too. I just want to make sure that if we had any more questions for the speakers to go ahead and get through that. Did we have any actual questions? Yes.
Yes, was there ever a master plan drawn for this community?
There was a
Come to the microphone, please. And also, just to make sure, we have no more questions for the public, right? So at this point, we should be moving back to the petitioner's response to the public. You have a question for someone from the public?
Yes, I would like to know from any of the homeowners, at what point,
Can you address one specifically, just so that we can?
okay, well, and I know, let's say Miss Cooper. Can you come to the mic if you don't mind? What year did you buy your home?
2020, October 2020.
In 2020. And at what point did you, were you promised that there would be some green space?
When we purchased the home, and then throughout the years, Mr. Eady, he comes back and forth. So him and my husband, they talked, we talked, you know, we would see him, so, you know.
So when you were speaking with him about purchasing the home, there was conversation about green space?
Well, when we spoke to the realtor,
Okay.
she spoke about green space, and then when we were at the closing, Mr. Eady mentioned green space. And so, like I said, throughout the years of us living there, he would always, every day, come through the neighborhood. We would see him, and occasionally he would talk about, you know, building a playground for the kids once he got finished building the houses that he was gonna build, so.
Okay, thank you,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Cooper. And either one of the Bryants, if you wouldn't mind. Hi.
Hey.
What year did you buy your home?
March 2020, 2022.
And 2022, okay,
Yes.
so two years later. And do you remember at what point that you heard that there was going to be some green space?
Yes, ma'am. When we started talking to Mr. Eady in January, December of 2021, back then we started looking at the property, and my wife and I say, okay, this might be something that we want to do. So I asked him about the neighborhood, and I asked him about those lots, because I knew Allenville is only 17 home sites. So I said, what are you going to do with these empty lots? He said, oh, I'm gonna make these green space. I may put a playground on it. I may do a pool. I may build a clubhouse. But he said, it's gonna be green, this is gonna be green space. So fast forward 5 years later, now he wants to build homes on it. So this is why we're here, you know? That community was only supposed to be 17 sites. That's what we were told.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Morrow, would you mind putting up the letter one more time? Sure. And that's all of my questions.
All right, if there are no other questions from the board for the public, the petitioner is welcome to come back up and respond to all of the comments that have been made.
To answer your question, there was a plat that was submitted, the subdivision plat. There wasn't necessarily a master plan that was submitted in accordance with Allenville Estates, but the subdivision plat is basically what,
Does it show common area?
not on,
No
the
green space.
common area that's shown is the gazebo and the pond that's parcelized on that.
So nothing else is designated
No,
as
ma'am.
green space or rec area?
No, ma'am.
So just to clarify.
Yes, ma'am.
So the lots in question are designated as residences?
On the preliminary plat, no, ma'am. They're out parcels that are not included in the initial property owners association, or in the initial subdivision. That were 17 lots.
I do want to say it, I feel a little uncomfortable taking somebody's word for it. I would rather see the actual plat.
Can we pull that up, Edward? Thank you. Yeah, so you can see from the preliminary plat we submitted, that shows kind of those 4 lots that are side by side. Those are apparent on the subdivision parcel too. They're just not included in what was designated to Allenville Estates. And for Edward to.
If I may, while we're waiting, I can talk a little more about common area. I think when you pull up the plat, you'll see where the detention pond, that's where the common area is to be. Sometimes it's labeled common area, sometimes it's just labeled detention pond, but that's generally, when you look at a subdivision map, where the common area is. These 4 lots are not part of the lots within the subdivision, but they were always intended by me to be part of the subdivision. And you'll see, I don't know if y'all even have the covenants, but there's an Article 2 about adding property to the existing development. And what I did in here, and I specifically remember these 4 lots, because I just said that he may, a lot of times we'll say you can add any of the property on Exhibit B, and you'll describe some future development property. But I knew we had these 4 lots, and what you'll see in, this is Article 2, Section 2, I said he may add as additional property any property he owns within 1 mile, because I knew those lots were right there, and I knew that they would be added in the future. And if I may also, the definition of common area in the declaration, and you know, all these folks had an opportunity to read all this and ask questions and all, but the specific declaration of common area shall mean and refer to those areas of land together with improvements thereon, now or hereafter conveyed or dedicated to the association, or as shown on any recorded subdivision map of the property, improvements thereto which are intended to be dedicated to the common use and enjoyment of the association. That's all a bunch of legalese, really, but the next sentence, common area shall include but not be limited to detention ponds, drainage easements, community sign, and fencing. So those are the areas that when I looked at the original subdivision map, I said those will be the common areas for this development. And that's why I put it in there.
Ms. Jarrett, you have a question?
I do have a question. So the lots were set to be included, but there was nothing said that indicates that we need to make variances for those lots, correct?
No,
We can let him build those lots exactly as they exist with the exact setbacks that, so he'll have a 20-foot wide home with 20-foot setback to the rear and a 20-foot setback to the front and 5-foot setbacks on the side.
Right, and that's something that probably needs to be said, doesn't necessarily pertain to these covenants, but he can walk out of here today and build a
what he
90-foot by
wants, yes.
20-foot house.
Gotcha.
And all these folks have bigger, differently sized houses, and that's what he wants to build, what they already have. And if he has to build a 90 by 20 foot house, I have a feeling that'll be more detrimental to them than what he's proposing.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there, what language is included there about the HOA? How often they're supposed to meet?
No,
conversation?
that language, it just really talks about the establishment of the HOA and it defines the name. But generally, there are bylaws for the homeowners association which will govern meetings and things like that. And I'll go ahead and say, well, while I'm thinking about it, the letter, if I may, it says the Property Owners Association of the Allenville Estates subdivision hereby supports the approval of the variance. Well, he is the property. I know that they're members of it, but if you had to take a vote, he's got probably 15, 20 votes right off the bat. So
Wouldn't it have been nice that they be included in the vote?
well, it'd be nice to include the members of an association in a lot of things that an
Yes.
association does, but you can't do that. You got a president for a reason. You got officers for a reason. I mean, if you had to take a membership vote for everything the association did, you'd be having a lot of votes.
Let me just ask, according to bylaws,
Yes,
don't HOAs have to meet at least once a year?
Actually, go ahead. I don't know if the bylaws say that, but I will say that under Georgia law, a nonprofit corporation is supposed to have, I think, it's been about 10 years at least since I've looked at that law, but every 13 months, I think is what it used to say, a nonprofit association would have a meeting. But I'll add, it's not uncommon for developments, new developments, and this is a pretty new development, to not have meetings. If he had a meeting and if he held a vote, he would have controlling vote. Should he have had a meeting, now let me back up, because these covenants were recorded in April of 2020. We weren't having association meetings in 2020, if you'll recall. And we really weren't trying to have too many meetings in 2021 because everybody was wearing masks, nobody wanted to be around each other. So should he have had a meeting, since then? Probably so, according to Georgia law, but I'm not surprised that he didn't because builders and developers, they develop the property, they build the house, and will we have a meeting?
Just to be clear, we are not hearing whether or not this organization is operating the way they should under state law.
Right. Okay.
So let's make sure that we stick with what we're doing here.
The question came up because this letter was presented in relation to the case.
And it says it's from the association, and the association, unfortunately, is Mr. Edie. It's not it is the
Well, I'm wondering
owners,
if there
but,
is an association, if you haven't met in once.
right. But
You've never met.
The originating
There isn't
documents
one.
have that, but yeah, that is for a different hearing. That is not the hearing that we are hearing right now. Ms. Wilson, did you have something that you wanted to address?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get you guys back focused on what the issue is, which is, they're asking for, first of all, just to be clear, you can always say no. They are making a request to get something, which will allow them to actually make more money, of course, because they'll be able to build a bigger house. However, they can build a smaller house based on what they have approved and move on. When staff did the review of this, one of the reasons that we supported it was that we felt because of the unusual shape of the lots, they're very narrow and long, that having that open space or that one lot that we chose would allow for some separation for the person on the side, would allow a little bit of a break, because those lots on that side of the street are very narrow. In fact, if you look at what is put up, if you scroll down or look at the other map, you'll see it's almost like they're half the size of the lots across the street. The ones across the street are 50 to 60 feet deep. These are 20 to 30, 20 to 28 feet deep. So you've got it's almost like a road was put in the middle of a regular lot. So when we looked at it, we thought, okay, well, this is great. They've got really narrow lots. This would allow there to be some space for the community, if nothing else, those lots to use because the house is so narrow. But I just want to make sure that you guys are staying focused on the fact that they are making a request for a variance for setbacks, period. And the gentleman's calculation of 17% is a bit off. I think he calculated roads and some other stuff. It would be far less than that. And when you think about the size of this lot in relationship to the whole subdivision, it's very small in the grand scheme of things, but the issue is either they build a smaller home, and they can walk out of the door right now and do that, or you grant the variance and let them put up a larger home. And they basically end up generating more profit, so.
I think that we are at the point of discussion, right?
Mind if I add one more
Yes, go
comment?
ahead.
I would just like to add that it's merely just not, and obviously, yes, you can build bigger homes if we get these variances. I would also like to reiterate that will be more in line with the homes existing in the neighborhood. That is the intent of our request. Just also last comment regarding to comments made about safety. I want to reiterate, it may be misconstrued where the front setback line is measured from. In terms of where the front of the house would be, again, that would be 25 feet from the edge of pavement of John Eady Court, not 10 feet. I just want to reiterate that. And the garage would be 35 feet from the edge of pavement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if we move into discussion, board discussion at this point, I would say, and I would hope that Mr. Eady would take this to heart.
One more comment for him.
You have a question for him?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I understand that you want to build a bigger house, but
Yes, ma'am.
the neighborhood is basically asking you to concede one lot if you want to build a bigger house. And I guess you're saying you're not willing to do that?
To us, just given the site of the subdivision and again, just local references, that, I couldn't find any examples of lots that by the POA do reserve common open space. I don't believe Mr. Eady should be held to that standard, no. Yes, sir.
I don't think it's being held to the standard thing. It's just a matter of, it sounds like you guys are in a business negotiation with your neighbors and the owner, and to me, it seems like the framing is if you want to get the houses and the support of the neighbors, they just want the green space.
Yeah.
And would you guys be willing to consider providing said green space as a part of a negotiation? That's what the framing sounds like to me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, are we in discussion or more questions?
I'd like to move to discussion, if that's okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
So some observations. One, I'm not sure it's the purview of this board to adjudicate disputes with HOAs. And it sounds like there's some turbulence between the HOA, the builder, and some of the homeowners there. To our executive director's point about, staying on task on the variance, I think that the discussion here about the green space was introduced because staff, trying to make the best possible negotiated outcome, introduced the green space item, which I think is an HOA item and not necessarily a planning item, from my read of it. Even though it seems like people are being sold that there's a park, people are being told that there's going to be a green space, et cetera. And that's probably not great business practice. But I just want to observe that I think we're trying to solve an HOA dispute where we might not have the ability to solve that HOA dispute.
I would agree with that. And what I was going to say before we went back to questions is that it would behoove Mr. Eady to not make verbal commitments to things, because while it's not in writing, this is what results. So I think that it's a they said situation, but it sounds a lot more like something was said because a lot of people were under the same impression. And we could avoid a lot of this and have a lot more support for the developer if they don't make those comments. Any more discussion?
Very quickly.
Mr. Irvin?
Strictly from an esoteric point of view, the issue goes directly to, as our city manager said, whether we're going to grant this or not. I know Ms. Jones and knew her father, and I find a lot of the statements I've heard from the developer's point of view to be very arrogant and condescending. I'm just going to say it on the record. I think people deserve to get what they thought they bought for. And I heard our city manager alluded to it. And I'll say it again, we're not a court of law. But if we were, you'd get slammed, Mr. Eady. That's my only statement for today.
Any more discussion? I'll open the floor for a motion.
Can I make a motion
That's,
to approve staff's recommendation
as written, correct?
as written?
Second.
Properly moved in second. We'll move to the vote. Ms. Amick?
That means
With all the attached conditions.
giving up that one lot.
Correct.
No.
Sorry, if I could, I just want to make sure that we are respecting the previous denial on Lot 15B. So Lot 15B cannot be decided upon today because it's not eligible. So the other exhibits would stand, and the petitioner would have to come back after the 12 months to have that assessed for Lot 15B.
Is there any procedural thing that we need to change since the recommendation that we have online right now is not accurate?
Your statement is the motion that
Supersedes.
will be considered.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Can I ask a question
What are we voting on now?
on the motion?
Yes.
Can we require the developer to give up a lot?
This is kind of contingent upon the variance, right? Ms. Wilson, do you have anything to add to that?
I think things happen for a reason, which is kind of interesting. You've got one lot that has to wait for 12 months. And when you make your motion, you have to make sure that you eliminate that lot, which would give them the opportunity to develop on the other lots. As far as what your recommendation is, you can recommend, they're asking you for something. They want to do something that right now they can't do. And I think that that's the one thing to always remember when somebody's asking for a variance. He's got the right to build on what he's got, but he went before the Board of Zoning Appeals, got a denial on that one lot, so there is nothing that can happen on that one lot. We basically identified, a general lot in our recommendation, but that lot can be any lot, and the developer could very well use that one lot that was not approved as the open space. You could make your recommendation to float that way. That's up to him, but you do have, you can make a request for anything. He can always deny it or he can appeal it.
Is there any other question? Is there any other question on the motion?
I want to make sure that we're talking about the right lot that won't be developed.
Mr. Morrow? Just for clarification, Mr. Kegler has a question on the specific lot.
We want to make sure we're talking about the right lot.
This one outlined in blue is the one that was denied by the ZBA at the July 24th meeting.
And that's 15B?
That is 15B, yes, sir.
Okay.
But 15D is the one proposed for the green space, right?
This is the one proposed for green space. Yep.
So, but does it make sense if you flip it like that?
Use 15B for the green space.
15, I mean,
We
I would like that.
we can't do anything with.
Yeah, but
so we can't do anything
15B
with
is already restricted because of the ZBA
Okay,
Right.
it's tied up.
So 15D would be the green space,
as written, yes.
as written.
So you can't do it as written?
With the three that we have access to today and making a determination on,
What you are not able to do is grant relief for Lot 15B. If you were inclined to support staff's recommendation, you could say 15B could become the green space, because that would not be granting relief.
So you have to restate that, the motion for Ms. Wilson with the 15B as a lot that we established as green space.
Yeah.
Could we not just leave that open to the developer?
If I may, which might help clarify some things, the developer still has a right to build a smaller house on the lot that you're not making a decision on, which is 15B. You all could make a request to support staff's recommendation that 15D be left as green space. When we did the recommendation, we made that recommendation for a couple of reasons with regards to the location of that lot. So the developer still would have the option of being able to develop those first 3 lots. It's just that second lot wouldn't have wouldn't have the relief. It might be a little bit smaller, but the rest of the lots should be able to be fully developed.
After
if
the
we
year's
decide
up,
to
could
go
he
that
come
route.
back and reapply?
Or
for
he
the-
could wait 12 months.
That's right.
Again, or he could wait 12 months and reapply for a variance for B.
Mr. Mutter.
Thanks. I'm prepared to vote for the motion with the staff's recommended approach, even though it may be overstepping a little bit, and we're saying that we're going to dedicate a parcel to a HOA that's controlled by an entity that doesn't want dedication of that parcel by a green space. So I'm sure there's going to be some further conversation about this, but I also just want to introduce that if in our motion, we're saying we want to include a green space here, if we could specify that it would be for the parcel that isn't able to be entitled at this point, I think we might be cleaning things up a bit and allowing for another home to be built, which we desperately need in the city of Savannah as well, instead of reducing the unit count from potentially 4 now down to 2 with our action.
I think part of that specific lot was because of the adjacent lot that's deeper than that one.
Yes,
I
that's
think that was the
correct.
intention.
That was why that was recommended, correct, Ms. Milton?
Right, and basically, Mr. Milder, they still would be able to build the
Exactly,
lots.
but
It's
I
just
think
that-
we would have a problem. I mean, I think the whole reason why we had a new staff member who was a designer go in and be very, very intricate about the design and the variances that that staff wanted us to allow was because we didn't think that a wide and narrow home befit the development pattern or of the area and wasn't the right approach. So in that sense, we're saying, yes, they can go ahead and build a 60-foot wide home that's 20 feet deep. That's called a double-wide trailer, for those who want to know what that means.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is staff's intention in the various recommendation, because it's very nuanced. It says, we want you to build a bigger footprint home that's more in character with the legal yet non-conforming uses of the other homes that are on the site, and so that we have a community development pattern there. That's right. So as we're making all of these trade-offs as a board in this staff recommendation, which again, I commend everybody for doing very hard work, I don't want us to make the trade-offs that we wouldn't make if we knew the consequences of all of those as well. So that's just kind of if we're already deep down this road making trade-offs and we want to have a green space, let's also not restrict the parcels that we are allowing for a variance to not be built in the way that other homes in the area are being built.
I think the only thing is problematic having open space in the middle of a residential stack, kind of.
Right.
And so it makes sense to have it on the end, I think. And you also might not want to live right next to it if you want to kind of have it on the end. I think that's.
We are at a point that we have actually had a proper motion and second, and we took one vote. So we are out of order at this point. Ms. Amick, would you like to retract your vote so that Ms. Wilson consider her motion and Ms. Bowles can reconsider her second?
I want to clarify. I'm opposed, just so I know what I'm voting on, I'm opposed to forcing a developer to give up a lot, period. We do need housing. We don't need to take a lot away when he could build, even if he builds, we don't give him the variances, he'd be building smaller, less expensive homes. We need those. It would affect the property owners. If I was the property owners, I would rather him get the variance and build $400,000, $500,000.
We still have a motion and a second on the
Right,
floor.
well, that's why I'm saying, what are we voting for?
You voted correctly.
Ms. Wilson, for clarification, because we do have some questions about the proper motion.
So my motion is to approve staff recommendation with 15D being the green space and the variances.
So
And grant
so
them the
we are
variance.
voting in favor of the denial that the staff recommended for the original,
That's right.
and instead we are voting for the recommendation, the alternate recommendation that includes reference to the exhibits. Is that clear? Is that accurate?
So
Yes.
the. Clear as mud. Okay, so in there, I'm trying to, I wish I could blow that up a little bit. So in their recommendation, there you go, keep going. So in their recommendation, 15B there cannot be anything done with 15B. That has to wait a year before anything can be, any variance can be given on 15B. But in staff recommendation, they said lot 15D shall be developed as a community area green space. So that is my motion, to approve staff recommendations with the setbacks, the setback relief, keep lot 15D, use that and develop that as a community green space, and then the other conditions with the privacy buffer, So basically, my recommendation is just the alternate, my motion is the alternate recommendation that staff has put before us on the screen.
Support it.
I'm sorry?
Except for 15B can't be done.
Except for 15B, there can't be anything done with 15B.
And that's just until a
They
few
come
months
back.
from now,
Come back,
because
yeah.
it's been 6 months since
Right,
the decision
right.
was made.
Is that,
They can build a house on 15B, they just can't get any
That's right.
relief from the
Without
setbacks. I
to
just
get
want to
at,
make
what
sure
I'm trying
that
to get
that's
at
very
is, the
clear.
motion as stated, is that clear enough to
Yeah.
move on to a second and possible vote? Is that clear enough?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
We have properly moved and seconded, so we also went out of order because we needed to retract the original. So sorry, can we please retract the original motion prior to this one? Y'all got me messed up over here.
My original motion was exactly.
But we had to clarify, because it was just a motion for staff's recommendation.
Okay, I'll retract my original motion.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Okay, now.
And you'll retract your second.
I'll reject my second.
Ms. Bowles,
Okay, and then
retract
can I
your
make
second.
a motion?
Please do.
Okay, my motion is to approve staff's recommendation.
Alternate recommendation.
The alternate recommendation,
Period.
period. No, you want me to go?
With the
okay,
15Bs
okay.
removed.
With the 15B removed, and just for clarification, 15D shall be developed as a community area green space, and other general conditions such as privacy buffer, and number 7, the associated variance petition number and approved MPC conditions shall be added to the final plat and record.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded, so we will take a new vote on this. Ms. Amick?
So we're voting to take away one lot. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
No.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Kegler?
Yes.
Mr. Melder?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Natrika?
Yes.
Mr. Plunk?
No.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Wywitty?
No.
I too vote yes. The motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, members of the community, for coming out and voicing your concerns. Next on the agenda, we have a text amendment, Article 2.0, review bodies and administrators, and Article 3.0, application and review procedures, sections 2.5, 2.6, 3.12, 3.18, 3.19, 3.21, and 3.23, which is 26-000035ZA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Edward Morrow again. Our final petition today is a text amendment for modifications to Articles 2 and 3 as it relates to the authorities of several of our boards and the processes associated with their execution of those authorities. The particular sections to be amended are 2.5, 2.6, 3.12, 3.18, 3.19, 3.21, and 3.23. As you can see on your screen, typically associated with variances and special exceptions. MPC staff and city staff have been in discussions for some time now about some inconsistencies that exist within Articles 2 and 3, authorities given to certain boards and the way that applications are processed and handled in accordance with Article 3. And so this is a revision to achieve some added efficiency in relation to how these boards function. You can see some brief explanations of these modifications on your screen related to Section 2.5 in the Historic Preservation Commission. This clarifies their authority as excluding downtown and adds their review of special exception text amendments prior to going to City Council for final consideration. Section 2.6 in relation to the Historic District Board of Review grants explicit variance authority. This is an authority that has existed, but again, aligning that with Section 3.21. Also, it codifies the size of the board at 9 members. In relation to Section 3.12 for special exceptions, this limits exceptions to non-measurable design standards. It adds certain historic compatibility criteria, and this is the first of a couple of revisions to align the validity period for special exceptions, variances, and COAs to extend all of those to 24 months, making them all consistent. In relation to sections 3.18 and 19 for COAs, again, extending these, well, actually they are at 24 months. But this does solidify the MPC Historic Preservation staff's ability to approve certain minor modifications to non-contributing resources within this district. That means that staff level approvals would just be indicated on the HDBR's agenda, not necessarily requiring board review, but for public awareness and for, again, the awareness of the board. Section 3.21 variances, this formalizes the fact that the HDBR will be granted certain narrow variance authority. It removes HPC's variance authority and standardizes the expiration to 24 months based on development activity for variances. And finally, Section 3.23 appeals. This lists the Planning Commission and the Historic District Board of Review as final decision makers. Specifically, I'd like to point out that that means that COAs that are issued by the HDBR will move forward to the Superior Court of Chatham County. Also, variances that are issued by this board will be appealed by the will be appealed to the Chatham County Superior Court rather than the Zoning Board of Appeals. In reviewing the criteria, I would like to walk through these briefly. In looking at consistency, this is an amendment or a series of amendments that's aimed largely at increasing efficiency. There are, again, certain powers that are delegated to boards within Article 2 that there is inconsistent language in Article 3, and this will resolve that. With regard to new or changing circumstances, the amendment addresses a practical need to distinguish between measurable standards and non-measurable design guidelines. It also recognizes that large projects often require more than 12 months, and so it brings these development approvals that are often necessary to see large projects through to the point of having a consistent validity period of 24 months. With regard to whether or not there was an error, and this is an attempt to address that error, the amendment does address a significant error that the HPC was listed as a review authority for variances. Again, this will clarify that the Historic District Board of Review will grant limited variances. However, the HPC will continue to send its variances to, within those lower 3 districts, those will continue to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Finally, with regard to compliance with higher law, we had a process of sending the quasi-judicial determinations of one board to another quasi-judicial board. This will help rectify that by now sending COAs for the Historic District Board of Review to the Chatham County Superior Court. So bringing that into consistency with higher law. This was reviewed by both boards, and we did receive feedback from the Historic Preservation Commission and the HDBR. It should be noted that they did have differing opinions about this. There was one issue that I wanted to raise, and this was that if the issuance of a COA is a quasi-judicial act on the part of HPC, as we are modifying this process for HDBR, we should likely at some point in the future do the very same for the HPC in the issuance of its COAs. So with that, MPC staff does recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
There's not a petitioner for this, right?
Ms. Liddy, on behalf of the city manager.
Ms. Liddy, did you want to speak? Or-
Hi, not Miss Liddy, Jessica Baldwin, Preservation Officer for City of Savannah.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Melder?
Hey, Jessica, how are you? One question, something that came up in the pre-meeting, and I just want to make sure that the board is fully educated on that and to hear it from you. In regards to the expiration timelines that are being updated in this proposed revision, this is to make consistent historic preservation review approvals, the expiration to be consistent with other current COA
Yes, sir.
expirations that are 24 months, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're moving it from 12 months to 24 months in this case?
Yes, sir.
So there was discussion in the pre-meeting about these needing to be 36 months or even 5 years. And I just, if you could describe the stakeholders that went into kind of
Absolutely.
putting this proposal together to make the COAs, all COAs, and all historic preservation approvals consistent in their timeline period?
Yeah, it helps consistency in terms of enforcement. So we worked with the MPC staff as well as DNA and Historic Savannah Foundation and the Oglethorpe Plan Coalition to kind of talk through what we were doing with this project or with these amendments. And the timeframes kind of came up, and it will generally help public as it provides a more consistent, this is the timeframe, and you're not having to worry about multiple timeframes within a said project. And it will also provide consistency for enforcement and our code compliance officers.
Thank you. And a comment I'd add to the commissioners is with the discussion related to 36 months or to 5 years, while that maybe there's very good reason for that, and it might be very welcome to some stakeholder groups, would be seen as unwelcome by other stakeholder groups that came together for this consensus. So I just want to make MPC aware of that.
So along those lines, it's a 2-year, 24-month process, and then 2 1-year renewals, or what are the renewals?
The rules stay the same in terms of 6 months, I believe, but the intent there is that, we identify and define development of activities so that, with planning projects, if projects are in works, that development activity is occurring, then that permit stays active.
What defines that activity?
Hold on.
Like it doesn't have to be the ground broken or anything like that, right? It's architectural planning and...
Yes, sir. Development activity can refer to applied or issued demolition permits, applied for issued building permits, and/or other site work permits that may be required for a project.
So am I hearing you had no actual input from the public or actual stakeholders, but you had input from 3 different entities, one of which has sued the city multiple times?
Those 3 entities are public, so we did do that. This project originally started from a request from MPC staff to look at these items, and that's where we established that. We've met with several stakeholders about it through the process.
Yeah, but those are very limited stakeholders. You didn't have the general public engaged.
We did.
Property owners.
I mean, we met with the stakeholders.
You met with those 3 groups?
Yes, sir.
And that's it?
Multiple times.
But those 3 groups only?
I did not have a public meeting in regard to this, other than at HDBR and HPC, where those items were presented to the public at a public meeting.
Okay, so we had limited input on that. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't have any public speaker cards for this. Ms. Wilson?
If I may, I'll just reiterate what my comments were in the pre-meeting. I receive numerous calls from applicants, designers that are actually working on these projects, and they're not, it's not Historic Savannah and some of these others. These are actual folks trying to do work. And of course, several of them wanted or requested 5 years. Upon looking at what we currently had in place, each year we've added. It used to be that it was 1 year, and then we added some more time. But in the current climate that we find ourselves in, I feel, and my recommendation was that we consider having that be 3 years with the ability to at least have a 12-month extension. 6 months is not really a lot of time. These projects are more complicated with regards to getting financing. And when you start looking at what, it's not like they're sitting stagnant and not doing anything. They have to show some movement with regards to even asking for an extension. But I think the 24 months was a good start. I just feel professionally that 3 years would be a better time frame. And in other jurisdictions, they allow more time. When I first got here, it was a really tight time frame for COAs, and that was putting people in a bind, and that was 8 years ago. And we extended, the time, that amount of time to what we have now. And now that, there's a small extension, but again, you still end up in this situation where people are just really caught. That time goes very, very quickly when you start looking at the amount of time that people have to move forward with their COAs. But of course, that's up to you with regards to what you want to do to move forward. But I just know, again, I just felt very strongly because of the number of people that reach out to me asking about what can be done with regards to extension without having to go back through the process again, which can take a lot of time.
I have a question for either you, Mr. Melder, or is it Robinson? Baldwin, sorry.
That's okay.
So in bringing this in alignment, what is it bringing it in alignment to other COAs for other?
It's making the variances that currently had a 1-year expiration date, now they have a 2-year expiration date.
Okay, and
Which is consistent.
Which is consistent with the with the certificates of appropriateness.
okay, so got it. Variances would be in line with the COAs.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is for ease of enforcement?
A combination of things, a general consistency throughout the code. Hopefully it allows ease of planning projects when people are beginning that steps and looking at permitting. They're not having to worry about, well, my variance may expire before my COA and some things that come up in that nature as well. And as well as kind of aligning those things with enforcement will help them be able to look and access and easily enforce when things are not following COAs.
Is there any strong opposition to doing it at 3 years, or is it?
Well, I don't have any basis for a strong opposition here, other than we're trying to make it consistent with other parts of the code so that, apples and oranges have the same expiration date, and that developers have a cleaner sense of what's possible, and they don't have to remember that historic preservation approvals have a different timeline than other COAs that they may get. This was a joint, collaborative effort between MPC staff and city staff, and while, Ms. Wilson and I might be, have some thoughts on it today, I also think that it's really important to understand that our staffs have been working on it for the better part of a year, trying to get these some of these provisions more consistent. So while I don't necessarily have some big issue with a 24-month expiration versus a 36-month expiration, I mean, you have to draw the line somewhere, and we can continue to have those discussions. I think the point of this proposal was to make everything expire on the same timeline. So there was more consistency, the ability to understand the code was easier, and it was more accessible to all developers.
Gotcha. Mr. Stevens?
I understand the alignment, but I just from a process and being in the community where people are developing and designing, I tend to question whether or not those timelines are ever going to always align, and that's where I'm starting to run into a little trick. Cause I get the idea, in theory, of saying, hey, let's align the 2-year thing, but if I apply for my variance and I still need to go back and do some design before I can come do my COA, I might not get a COA until a year after my variance, so I'm now still staggered and still having to track that from a developer and designer standpoint. So I guess I'm just really trying to reconcile how that alignment is beneficial to the stakeholder. I get where it's beneficial to the city, and maybe it's beneficial to the stakeholder from saying, hey, we all know it's just 2 years for all of this.
Well,
So,
it's
yeah.
also double the time that it is now.
Yeah, true enough, true enough.
So that's,
Yeah,
it's 100% more of a benefit for the petitioners who are receiving historic preservation approvals.
And we can always revisit, correct?
Yes.
Any discussion about the 1-year extension as opposed to the 6-month?
We can have our staffs come up and talk. I was not part of those conversations. Jessica, do you want to talk about whether or not we discussed the 6 months extension versus a 12 months?
Honestly, that wasn't really discussed in our like background conversations. This whole thing started about the non-contributing, contributing portion and the HDBR needing, special exception criteria, and it kind of looped into these other portions as we open that up and start to see how all these interact with each other. So that's kind of where that came about. There was not a discussion about extensions, but that is definitely something that if you all are interested in, can be included in this. But it was not discussed, we did not discuss that as part of it, no.
Currently, is it only one extension, or how many, like, is there a limit to the extensions? That's what.
I believe it's just one. That is correct.
1 6-month extension?
Yes, sir, I believe that to be accurate.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move to board discussion. Any discussion? Mr. Miller?
Well, I think that if MPC moves this forward, we should perhaps task staff to widen the stakeholder group before it gets to council and ask some of the, potential developers and others what kind of instances this may bring, and we can provide that context to city council.
Noted.
I think I would be, I agree. I think I would probably be in favor of adding the extension to increasing the time to the extension, because I've been a part of some of these projects, and they get messy trying to hurry up and meet the deadlines. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Could that be discussion between here and city council as well?
Yeah, I think we can all the timelines, the expiration timelines, the extension timelines, and just give a more fulsome picture of that.
All right, if there's no more discussion, looking for a motion?
I move to approve staff's recommendation with an added note that the city provide information based on developer input to the expiration and extension timelines of all COAs.
Jeff Matrika, second.
All right, it's been properly moved in second. Ms. Anick?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin has left. Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Kegler?
Yes.
Mr. Melder?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Natrika?
Yes.
Mr. Plunk?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Wywitty?
Yes.
I too vote yes. The motion unanimously carries. All right. There are no presentations. Approved staff reviews. Minor master plan amendment. Keller PD Hopeton Landing 25-005768-ZA. No other business, no executive session. So motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? All right.